Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the What If. Chapter 19. Past Transgressions. Wah. Thump. Do it again, Naruto said as he sat on the railing overlooking the deck in a meditative pose. Vivi pulled herself off of the ground and dusted herself off, glaring at Naruto. You can give me that look all you want to. Scarier people than you have tried to stare me down, princess. Now get back to the start and do it again. Vivi huffed but did as she was told. The other day she tried fighting Naruto again out of anger at not progressing very much in her training and wound up getting a low-key beatdown from Naruto who didn't even open his eyes to do it. From that point she realized that the only reason Nojiko ever hit him with her pistol was because Naruto let her. If he was really trying, she would never have hit him. Vivi took a deep breath as she tried to get herself ready for another go-through of Naruto's wire obstacle course before turning back to him. Can you even do this? Yes, Naruto said without opening his eyes or even moving. Even if I was controlling this with my eyes open I could send a cage bunshin and he would still get through this course. You think it's hard now? I haven't blindfolded you yet, Vivi. You can't complain yet, it's only been a few days. Vivi frowned and took her eyes away from him to focus on the course layout. She could barely see the sunlight shining off of the metal wiring and started stepping through carefully. She quickly learned a loophole to Naruto's training that she believed he left on purpose. He never said how fast she had to go, just that he wanted her to get through it. Therefore she was just taking small thought-out steps, trying to outwit Naruto. It didn't matter how patient she tried to be though. Naruto was always attentive without even opening his eyes and was always ready to ensnare her. Accidentally stepping on a wire, Vivi felt it try to tighten underneath her feet. Vivi, deciding to go for broke, jumped forward only to see the sun glare off of a set wires in midair meant to trap her. She managed to contort her body through and land in a front handspring and get herself back upright before a wire could catch the hand she had planted onto the ground. Standing straight up she came face to face with a web of wires that stopped her in her tracks as well as a wall of them behind her. Well, it looks like someone had a breakthrough, Naruto said with a smile on his face as he opened his eyes to look at Vivi. He let the wires drop so that she could relax and he could reset them. You do your best work evading when you don't think about doing it, Vivi. You have reflexes like a cat. And even though you have no idea where a threat is coming from you still know something is going to happen and your muscles are already prepared to respond well in advance. Naruto then blinked. Speaking of threats, he then tossed out a shuriken at the crow's nest where Nojiko was. The weapon angled around from her side to her back stealthily. In response to that, Nojiko whipped around suddenly, pulled out one of her pistols and let off a shot that hit the shuriken and knocked it from the sky. Naruto-kun, that one wasn't fake. She yelled at him angrily, why are you throwing real weapons at me? To keep you sharp, Noji-chan. Naruto yelled back. Nojiko shot at him and hit him before he burst into smoke and a log dropped to the ground in his place. Nojiko pointed her pistol back over her shoulder in time for Naruto to appear behind her in a shunshin, placing the barrel right under his chin. I'm really getting sick of you doing that. I even waited. There was no way you sensed my presence. Nojiko smiled cheekily, getting Naruto to grin at her before he burst into smoke again. This time Naruto appeared in front of her and wrapped his arms around her, about to squeeze her tightly when he felt the barrel of her pistol again, this time on his junk. Nojiko's smile was massive. I saw that coming too. You can't surprise me anymore, Naruto-kun. Naruto paled at the fact that Nojiko had not removed the gun from his most blatant weak point. I swear I am going to find out how you can do that. Does it only work when I attack you? Is it some kind of sixth sense? Nojiko blinked in his arms. Can't Vivi do it? You were just talking about something like that with her. Naruto shook his head. No, you know exactly what I'm going to do when I attempt it. The look on your face says that you had me pegged the second I threw that shuriken. Vivi can't do that. You can see it in her eyes when she dodges or does anything that she can't. She doesn't know what I'm going to do, but her reflexes make sure that it doesn't matter. She can still for the most part avoid most things that are way faster than her. If I want to hit her with anything I have to really focus. You would too. I still can't shoot you yet, can I, Naruto-kun? Nojiko whispered to him softly. Naruto grinned and pushed his forehead against her as he pulled the barrel away from himself. maybe one day soon you'll hit me, but you know you wouldn't have pulled the trigger there anyway. You like that part of me too much to blow it away. Naruto finished wrapping his arms around her and shunshined back down to the deck. I have something new for you to learn how to do. A confused look came onto Nojiko's face when Naruto stood her directly in front of the first mast and placed a bullseye on the second one. What is this? Learning how to dive from behind cover and hit my mark. Naruto shook his head. No, you can already do that. I told you all that the training I was going to make you all do would piss you off. Well, this is going to piss you off. I want you to hit that bullseye with a shot from your pistol. Nojiko shrugged, not seeing what the point was all about, and moved to the side when Naruto called out to her and motioned for her to step back where he had initially put her, finally getting th point to dawn on her. No way. That's impossible. Unless you want me to stretch my arm like Luffy does, I can't hit it. No such thing as impossible, Noji-chan. Naruto said, taking her pistol away from her. Give me a day with one of your guns and I'll make it possible. Nojiko let him take a pistol from her and walk away. What are you going to do? You'd better not mess it up. I'm used to that one. It's like an extension of myself by now. Naruto turned around at the door of the ship to the gun-toting girl and gave her a wide grin. I know what I'm doing, Nojiko. This is a test. If this works, I'm going to use it on our cannons. Just give me a day. Nojiko watched him shut the door behind him. If you mess up my pistol, I will shove a live grenade down your throat and make you swallow it. I love that gun. She sighed, not knowing if she had been heard or not before speaking to Vivi. He's going to break my gun. I just know he is. Vivi let out a sigh of relief as she saw Naruto head inside. This training is really working my nerves. I feel paranoid even when nothing is happening. I always think the next step I take is going to end with me strung up in midair. Nojiko walked over to Vivi and put a hand on her shoulder. You know, Naruto-kun, training you makes you a member of our crew. Vivi smiled until Nojiko continued, a probationary member of the crew. What? Vivi said. Well, how do I get to be a full status member? Nojiko laughed slightly. You need an actual job that needs to be fulfilled on the crew. I'm the navigator and den mother to this boat of psychopaths. The cook is Miss Valentine, and Johnny and Yosaku are the chore boys, but don't let them hear you say that. What does Soren do? Vivi asked in return. She really didn't see him do anything except sleep and fight and hang out in the crow's nest from time to time. He doesn't have a real job. Nojiko sweat dropped. Well, he doesn't really do anything actually. He knows of every famous pirate worth mentioning on the Grand Line, so that's one thing. The only person out of all of us that can beat him would be Naruto-kun. And he seems to follow Naruto-kun's orders, the few that he actually ever gives, so I guess just off of strength he's a crew member. Naruto was the one that gave you the probation title thing. I think he's messing with you, but I'm going with it. Vivi sat down, taking the time to go on break for a moment. You know, you guys keep this ship in really good condition for all of the fighting you guys get into. She then looked closer at the deck and saw all of the slash marks, minor cracks on the ground, and bullet holes strewn about. Never mind. You keep the hull in really good shape at least, but the rest of the ship, you guys tear this place apart. Not sure how to actually receive that. Nojiko simply shrugged. It still floats and we haven't fallen through the floor yet, so I'd say we're good. It's better that we destroy the ship ourselves than someone else. We haven't even taken any battle damage yet. We do a good job of avoiding fights on the water, which is good, because 2 of the people on this ship can't swim. Soren and Miss Valentine, right? Vivi asked, getting a nod from Nojiko, and that's probably why Soren follows Naruto's orders, because otherwise he could just blast him with ocean water and beat him that way. Whatever works, Nojiko said offhandedly as she also went inside. XXX, let me go outside, Uzumaki. Naruto was standing just outside of Soren's door, leaning against the wall beside it while the sound of Soren scratching on the door itself like a dog trying to get outside rang out. I've been in here forever, I'm going stir crazy. If you don't let me out, Naruto cut him off. If you try to burn through the door with acid, or knock it down, or do anything that breaks anything in there at all, I'm going to beat your ass, tie you to the bed, and have a cage bunch and throw seawater on you every 20 minutes to keep you powerless. He rapped on the door to ensure he had Soren's attention. You're still hurt. And unless you get magician-like escape capabilities the way I did when I was a kid in the hospital, you aren't getting out of there until the week is up or we get somewhere where you can stretch out on land. Soren stopped scratching on the door. Well, how close are we to some land? He asked aggressively. I could walk around yesterday if you didn't have your guard dogs Johnny and Yosaku watching the door. I need to get back to training. Naruto raised an eyebrow. How do you train anyway? Because I never see you do it. I think I would notice if there were burned-through spots all over the ship. I can control how potent my acid is, genius. Soren said derogatorily to his captain. I can make it strong enough to eat through most metals in a few seconds or make it as weak as simple sweat. You don't see it because it isn't dangerous when I train, and I train on top of the crow's nest and fire all of my attacks out at the water. You're usually too busy tormenting, training, everyone else that needs the help. Why would you worry about what I'm doing to train? I know what I'm doing. I've been training myself for years. Yeah, to kill some guy. Naruto said as if he had heard it a million times before. What guy? And why do you want to kill him? You haven't been very forthcoming with the information. I had to find out from a poster what your bounty was. I don't know who this guy is that you want to kill. I know less about you than you do about me. Soren was silent for a moment. The less you know the better, Uzumaki. I never asked you about anything. I understand that there are some things that other people don't need to know about you. Give me the same courtesy at least. A frown crossed Naruto's face. Fine, but this better not supersede everything. If you can find the guy and our paths cross, I will give you your shot at him. But you better not lose your head. I need you able to think and reason. You're too important to just be some revenge-driven berserker. I can't make any promises. Soren opened the door, still covered in bandages on every visible part of his body and under his clothes, and looked at Naruto, tracing the mark on his own face that trailed down his arm with his finger. He was the one that did this to me. Naruto squinted and looked hard at Soren. It looked like some kind of tribal marking. He thought it was something like what the clans in the elemental nations had. How in the hell did he do that to you? You're too strong for anyone to do anything like that to you without you getting them back. A humorless laugh came from Soren. There's a time in everyone's life, no matter how strong they are at some point, when they are completely and utterly defenseless. Yep, I couldn't fight very well when I was 7. I didn't even have the power of the Ebi no Mi either. I didn't get that until later. Naruto shook his head. Don't let it consume you, Soren. If you do, and you get your revenge, you'll just find something else that you need to get your revenge on, something worse, something bigger. And it'll turn you into a monster. Trust me. Soren gave him a dry look. And what would you know about getting revenge, Uzumaki? Naruto backed away. Me? Nothing. But I've seen someone with a bigger desire for it than you for a better reason, and he got his revenge. With that, Naruto walked away, leaving Soren standing in his doorway. And, Soren said impatiently. Naruto stopped halfway down the hall and turned around. And what? Soren got a tick mark on his head. He knew Naruto wasn't really that stupid. Don't give me that crap. What happened to the guy that got his revenge? You can't just cut something off like that in the middle of making your point. Naruto had a sweat drop on his head. Well, sorry for trying to be dramatic and cool. He scratched his scalp. Anyway, that guy ended up pushing all of his problems from one source to another, just because he couldn't let it all go. It drove him insane. He flipped his entire worldview at least twice and he lost himself to his madness. I just don't want to see that kind of thing happen to you, Soren. Soren said thoughtfully. The way you're saying all of this makes me think you knew the guy that you're talking about personally. I did, Naruto admitted freely. So what ended up happening to him? Soren asked curiously. Let it be known that Naruto was very good at making you want to know things about him. Naruto turned around again and just walked away after being asked that question. Well, with his renewed sense of vengeance and a new slew of powers to take it with, he ended up trying to destroy my home and friends and wound up being manipulated like a fool by a madman set on taking over everything, so I killed him. He let that end the conversation, and I really hope I never have to watch it happen to anyone else, Soren. XXX Naruto looked out over the front of the ship and saw an island on the horizon. So where are we now? He asked Nojiko, who had a map in her hands. Jaya, she said, putting the map down. I don't know anything about this place, Naruto-kun. Are we near land yet? Soren said, accompanied by Johnny and Yosaku as they made their way towards Naruto and Nojiko. Where are we? Nojiko put the map in front of his face and pointed at Jaya. Fun. Soren said with a grin, you're going to want to get all of your guns and ammunition beautiful. He said to Nojiko, the two boneheads are going to want to keep their hands near their swords at all times. Valentine and the princess going to have to watch their skirts at all times, and Uzumaki is going to have a blast here if only because of the copious amounts of idiots here that will probably try to fight him because he's a pretty boy. Naruto grinned right back at Soren. Really? He asked excitedly, getting a fervent nod of confirmation. Fun. I know. Soren returned before elaborating on what the big deal was. Jaya is full of one thing and one thing only. Wannabe big shot pirates that think they're hot shit for making it this far on the Grand Line. The last time I was here I ended up having to kill 5 guys picking a fight with me because my bounty wasn't as high back then as it is now. I eventually bartered passage off, but the point is, this place is pretty much lawless. All there are here are pubs, weapon stores, pubs, weapon stores, pubs, and pubs. Nojiko looked through a pair of binoculars at the toe. It doesn't seem that bad to me actually. It actually looks pretty nice from where I'm looking. Miss Valentine came up, followed by Vivi. That's Mock Town. And it looks that nice because no one destroys the actual property, they'd rather just buy stuff and get drunk. Still, fights do happen here. She looked away distastefully with a fake laugh. I fucking hate this place. I had to come here to see if there were any pirates with potential for Baroque works. So many assholes tried to hit on me and flaunt their bounties at me. Hey beautiful, I've got a bounty of 10 million. Why don't you come and get with the next up-and-coming pirate? Idiots. Naruto looked at her pout and pointed at her, right then. You and Vivi are staying here on the ship when we dock. Vivi's jaw dropped before she complained about the current course of action vehemently. Hey, just because she didn't want to go doesn't mean I don't. Naruto's finger shifted from pointing at Miss Valentine to pointing at Vivi, probationary crew member. Follow your orders. I will have order and obedience on my ship. Johnny smirked. Naruto and Ikki, you don't tell any of us to do a damn thing on this ship other than our jobs, which don't really take that long. The rest of the time we all do nothing. The only people that follow your orders all the time are your clones. Naruto gave Johnny a deadpan look that eventually unnerved the sunglasses-wearing man before the blonde made a half-tiger hand seal. You. Weight increase. Fuin. Johnny dropped face first on the deck before picking himself up shakily. Now. I order you to stay here and be Valentine and Vivi's guard dog since you like to mouth off at the captain so much. Fine. Johnny said, as he finished struggling to his feet. Asshole. Now you want to act like a captain. He said under his breath before his weight bands glowed blue again and deposited him face first onto the deck again. Vivi checked where Johnny's body hit. Wow, that left a really good divot in the ground. Johnny groaned in reply. You guys need to fix this stuff, the deck is starting to look like a battlefield. Naruto shrugged. Training ground would be the more appropriate description. Now let's go to asshole Pirate City. I haven't punched an actual human being in the face in a while. And if I take Noji-chan she will be getting hit on constantly, giving me tons of excuses to actually do it, unless she shoots them first. It's called Mock Town, Nojiko said before she narrowed her eyes and crossed her arms. You still have one of my pistols, idiot. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I'm not done with it yet. You can use one until I get the other one back to you, can't you? You have like 4 more guns on you, not just the pistols. Nojiko sulked at his question. I like that gun, Johnny chimed in from the ground. You know what I like when I have a concussion. Silence. Can you all please shut the hell up until the ringing in my head stops? Everyone around him went silent while Vivi kept poking at him with the toe of her white-heeled boot. Thank you. XXX Island of Jaya. Mock Town. Naruto, Soren, Nojiko, and Yosaku walked through the town that looked like a resort, with the exception of the pirates looking at them with violence in their eyes for the men, and, something else for Nojiko. Can I please scare the shit out of them now, Noji-chan? Naruto asked desperately. They've been giving us all looks since the second we docked and you won't let us just beat them up and be done with it. We're not going to maim anyone. Nojiko stopped in front of the group and pointed firmly in Naruto's face. You aren't getting us into trouble here. I would like to be in a town that you didn't turn into a war zone for once, and the log pose hasn't reset yet. Soren's still hurt and I don't feel like letting him off to go on his own where he's going to undoubtedly piss someone off and start a fight. Yosaku's the only one out of you three being good for once. Soren scoffed. He's just sucking up so that you don't pistol whip him. Look at him, he wants to go over and start mean mugging right back at these guys. Yosaku's eye was twitching as his facial features otherwise didn't betray his calm demeanor. Why aren't you going over there and kicking some ass right now? In order to make himself seem more serious, Yosaku had taken to keeping his long green jacket closed due to the insistence of everyone else on the ship that it looked cooler that way, because after I win Nojiko Ainu will pistol whip me for fighting. He said with a serious gesture, making Nojiko sweat drop. Naruto Aniki destroys enough towns without me being the catalyst to this one's demise. I'm not that bad, am I? Naruto and Nojiko said at the same time before looking at each other. You do hit us all the time, Noji-chan. Naruto said matter-of-factly. Nojiko shot right back. You've caused hundreds of millions of belly of property damage since the day I met you. You destroyed an entire fortress the day I met you. I cannot stress this enough. You are a force of nature, and I mean that in the worst way possible. Soren smirked. I didn't hear you saying that to him last night. Nojiko blushed brightly. If my ears were correct, I was hearing a lot of comparisons between Uzumaki and God, or was that just me? Ow, fuck. Soren was rubbing a knot on his head caused by the butt of Nojiko's pistol. I'm still hurt here. I need a drink now. Uzumaki, pick a direction. Southeast. Naruto shouted gleefully before blinking in confusion. Wait, why did you make me shout a random direction? Soren looked southeast and pointed where there was a bar in plain sight, because I just wanted you to pick somewhere for me to get drunk. Nojiko glared at him. What? You don't need me. The log pose isn't going to reset for a while, so I'm going to go get smashed. Who's with me? Naruto and Yosaku both raised their hands until Nojiko lowered Naruto's and dragged him off. Come on. Why? I've got money to spend. I want bottles. Nojiko shook her head and continued to drag him off. Because we need to get the rest of your treasure converted into actual usable cash. Until then you don't have anything to spend. Now come on, you lush, you're supposed to be the captain here. Yosaku turned to Soren after Nojiko dragged Naruto away. So, drink. Drink. Soren agreed. Drink until the sun goes down and the world starts making me a little less angry. He put an arm around Yosaku's neck and dragged him into the chosen pub. XXX hours later. Dusk. Nojiko happily led a visibly bored Naruto carrying 5 massive sacks back through town. Cheer up, Naruto-kun, at least we have all of the surplus treasure you took way back with Nami turned into cash. Naruto frowned. It took hours. I wish you would have let me leave a cage bunshin. Then we could have actually done something useful while we were waiting for the guy to get everything together. He looked at her to see Nojiko beaming at the fact that they had so much money. You're really happy right now, aren't you? Nojiko bumped her hip into his happily. I grew up poor, Naruto-kun, and to go along with that Arlong was taxing and terrorizing everyone, so I've never had much money. All of the money Nami stole was to free the village, so I never got to touch any of that, and now I travel with you and you aren't exactly broke. It's fun. Naruto grinned at her. Well, maybe I should spoil all of you if that's the case. You know, get you all some kind of awesome gift of some sort, because I care. Maybe it will make Vivi less pissed off at me. She's just a little frustrated. Nojiko said, she'll feel better when it's clear that your training is really working. You haven't failed with any of us yet, Naruto-kun. How do you know how to train all of us? Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I've seen a lot of fights, Noji-chan. Like I said, I don't think there's anything on the Grand Line that I can see that would scare me to death or catch me too much off guard. Have you seen me scared of anything yet? Nojiko laughed nervously. If I ever see you scared of anything, then I'll have to believe that we're in some serious trouble, so do your best to keep that from all of us if you could. So, where to next? That's easy, Naruto said as he and Nojiko continued to walk along. We need more gauze, duct tape, and super glue. Nojiko gave him a deadpan look. What? If you can't fix your injuries with duct tape and super glue, then you have a serious problem. I'd rather my medical treatments don't leave me with scars. Nojiko said contemptuously at Naruto's primitive medical practices. We seriously need to find a doctor before one of us gets killed. We've been lucky all the way through so far. Naruto sighed. Soren's fine. Besides, we aren't going to find anyone here. Everyone here makes wounds, not fixes them. Of course, if you're feeling brave, you can start yelling for a doctor. I'm sure that would get you a lot of innuendo-laced comments from the people leering at your chest. Your tattoo really does draw attention to your chest, Noji-chan. She crossed her arms under her bosom, making them more prominent. You know you love it. Never said I didn't, Naruto said with a grin. A smirking Nojiko winked at him before sounds of a nearby ruckus caught her attention. Someone must be fighting. What should we do? Naruto stroked his chin with his free hand while he held the sacks of money. Well, my heart says to go away and ignore it. My gut says to go over there because I'm bored. And my brain says to ignore my gut because gut's a damn moron. And then they get to fighting. And now I want ramen. But brain knows that we won't find any, and that pisses off both heart and gut. So they kick brain's ass even more. Nojiko just stared at him for a prolonged period of time before speaking. Okay, not only did that not answer my question, you just made me fear for your sanity 3 times in the same sentence. Good, Naruto said brightly before grabbing a hold of Nojiko's hand. Now let's go see the fight and then ask if anyone knows where I can get some ramen. As the two made their way towards the crowd cleared a path as a very tall man, taller than Crocodile, with blonde hair and flamboyant clothes came through, walking in a seemingly bow-legged pattern. The man wore a pink, feathered coat, a white shirt with red stripes underneath, a green belt, orange pants with white stripes, and orange-tinted sunglasses. The man stopped in front of Naruto and Nojiko and looked them over with a grin on his face. Nice hair. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Right back at you, he said in reply. What's happening back there? The man shrugged and walked away, grin present on his face. Nothing important. It was actually pretty boring to me. Leaving the confused Naruto and Nojiko behind, he simply kept walking along past them and on his way. Naruto and Nojiko kept walking past the crowd to find 2 men on the ground motionless. One had blonde hair, scars on his face, and wore a blue captain's coat. The other was a man with shoulder-length blue hair, and an open white furred coat. He had a large curved knife in his hand, but neither were moving. Naruto walked over to them where there was a blonde woman in sunglasses and a red bandana kneeling over them. What happened here? It looks like they fought each other and nobody won. Doflamingo. The woman said. He said that he didn't need Bellamy or Sarkis, that they were failures for picking a fight and losing to the Straw Hat Kid. He made them fight each other, and now. Nojiko walked over and looked at the scene. They fought with Luffy. He wouldn't do something like this to anyone though. He didn't. That's not Luffy's style. Naruto walked over to the man called Bellamy and flipped him over to reveal a marred knuckle mark on the side of his face. Well, Luffy definitely did that to him. He looked at the woman that was looking over the 2 downed men. They're not dead, and they're not going to die. That guy just wanted to hurt them badly from what it looks like. It looks like someone already worked on them though, so they should be fine in a few months. Months? Nojiko asked. Naruto pointed at the specific wounds on the men. Both had deep slash marks on the inside of their joints. Oh, that's why. Naruto nodded and stood up to walk away. Nobody should pick fights with Luffy. That kid never loses to anyone. And now that guy's going to have a reminder of his kicking for the next few months. Luffy's going to be really tough one day. Nojiko looked at him. Does that mean you want to fight Luffy? You said you wanted to fight all of the strong people in the world. Naruto shook his head. Not yet. Luffy isn't as good as he's going to get yet. I'll fight him when he's at his best, but until then I want to see how good I really am. From what I've seen, there's no one in this place that exudes any power worth trying my luck against. Most of these guys are totally weak. He motioned towards Bellamy. That guy was the strongest guy here, and the only mark he had on him from Luffy was that 1-punch mark. It only took 1 hit for Luffy to beat him. No one around here is worth talking about. Except for that guy that was walking away when we showed up. Hey, the blonde woman said. Don't give me that crap that our doctor gave us when she left. Bellamy's bounty is 55 million. That's more than yours probably is, pretty boy. Naruto laughed and pulled Nojiko next to him as he walked away. Bounties don't mean anything to me. Your guy had 55 million and got beat in one punch by someone I could beat if we fought right now. Come on Naruto-kun, don't worry about it. Nojiko urged, I really don't want you tearing this town apart too. Naruto looked at her, I wouldn't need to tear the town apart to beat all of these people, I wouldn't even need to tear the block apart. The amassed group of pirates looked at the pair walk away before one of the pirates standing about blurted something out in realization, Naruto. As in Uzumaki Naruto, multiple eyes in the vicinity bulged out as they figured they had just had a brush with death itself. If what the Marines said about him were anything to go off of, that was Uzumaki Naruto. Seriously. XXX, with Soren and Yosaku, why am I doing this my boy? Fufufufu, I do this to you because I can, because you are weak, and the weak will always be controlled and dominated by the strong. But you interest me, how strong can you get, driven by hatred? Maybe when we meet again you'll be interesting, but until then I'll give you something to remember me by. As those words from his past rang out in his head, Soren looked deeply into his empty glass on the bar as his marking started throbbing absently. Yosaku, this whole drinking thing to make me less angry is kind of backfiring. Yosaku was swaying in the seat next to Soren slightly. Well, don't look at me. There's a bar full of people that you can fight. I'm your nakama. We're friends, and I don't want you to melt this sword too. Meh, I wouldn't melt your sword if we fought again. And I don't want to fight any of these people. Soren said dejectedly, I know I can beat all of these idiots and it won't help me vent. Just keep drinking until Uzumaki or Nojiko drags our sorry asses out of here. A woman with shiny pink hair done up in a bun of sorts and a small mole under her left eye sat near Soren and Yosaku at the bar with a sigh. Now who am I going to work for? She said. She wore a tight-fitting yellow outfit that zipped in front and left little to the imagination when it came to her chest and around her legs where the outfit stopped in a skirt. She also wore high brown boots that came up to her knees with medical crosses on the front of them. Soren elbowed Yosaku in the side when he caught the swordsman staring at her. I would say that you would have a shot if you lost the headgear, otherwise you might as well keep on looking. Yosaku shook his head wordlessly, getting Soren to shrug. Whatever you say, I was just trying to help. He gestured towards the bartender. Oi. Refill, right here. So, Yosaku said probingly towards the woman. What kind of work do you do, miss? He said, more or less asking for her name. The woman rolled her eyes and kept from looking at Yosaku. Murat, and I was a doctor on this pirate crew led by Bellamy the hyena, but he went and got his clock cleaned by Monkey D. Luffy and then he and Sarkis got themselves beaten to a pulp again. They should have died. But those pretenders will just end up getting themselves killed, and then where would that leave me? She shook her head. I'm not going to be a doctor for people that are going to wind up dying anyway. Yosaku placed a hand on his chin with his other propping up his elbow, trying to give himself a studious look. I can see your point. I mean, doctors like their patients to survive, don't they? Murat's eyes drifted over to Yosaku with a dry look. You probably thought that sounded rather smart and deep, didn't you? She said, getting a face fault out of him for blowing his cover. Whatever. Why are you trying to talk to me? You haven't even bought me a drink. Yosaku immediately recovered. I can do that. But if you're a doctor, can you look my friend over? He's kind of hurt and we don't have a doctor. He said, pointing at Soren. Soren growled through his drink. Don't pull me into your epic fail to win this girl over, Yosaku. Yosaku then jabbed Soren in the ribs with his fingers sharply, getting Soren to spit out his drink and yell in pain, you son of a bitch. Yosaku looked back over at Murat. You see. He's all wrecked up from the last battle he was in and he's still hurting from it. Can you help him out? I don't work for free. Murat said. I'm something of a mercenary doctor. I'm not going to just help you out of the goodness of my heart. That would be money out of my own pocket. You do have money, don't you? Yosaku nodded furiously. I doubt it. Soren was still reeling with Yosaku's fingers subtly jabbing his ribs up. Woman, I'll pay you. He hissed out through the pain. Just get over here and help me out before I put this moron's face through the bar. I'm not supposed to cause property damage here. Our captain does enough of that on his own. Murat stood up with a sigh and walked over to Soren to give him a short examination of his injuries. Who tried to fix you? It looks like someone just dropped you on a bed and left you there. Soren groaned in pain. That's kind of what happened. Nobody fixed me. No one on the ship knows how. And the thing is, we've never needed anyone to actually do it first before. Ow. That's uncomfortable. Well, Murat said as she was testing Soren's right arm's range of motion, you're alright, but you're beat all to hell. There's nothing I can do at this point. You're just going to have to wait it out until you're back to 100%. You've never needed a doctor before. Either you're all really lucky or you're all very strong. Soren let out a short laugh along with Yosaku. We're not lucky, trust us. Yosaku followed up after Soren. Yeah, but Naruto Aniki's done a good job of keeping us all in one piece so far. Hey, do you want to meet him? He asked her, still trying to keep the conversation going. Murat raised a delicate eyebrow. Why would I want to meet this Naruto person? He isn't hurt, or is he? Yosaku shook his head. No. Naruto Aniki never really needs a doctor. Even when someone does manage to hit him, he just walks through it and keeps going. No, you should meet him so he can pay you for helping us out. Hearing that name in her head, Murat mulled it around, trying to recall where she had heard that before when she looked onto the wall and saw a rather new poster up and prominent. The poster of the bloody Naruto after the fight at Arlong Park. Wait. Your captain is Uzumaki Naruto. The Uzumaki Naruto that kidnapped a member of the Alabasta royal family. That guy is here. Soren and Yosaku just nodded. Murat ran a hand through her hair. First Doflamingo shows himself and now Uzumaki does too. And you're Soren the Plague, she said after looking at the wall and seeing Soren's bounty poster up as well. What is this? Show off your high bounty day or something. Soren's eyes glassed over. What did you just say? He asked blankly. Murat blinked in confusion before speaking again. About what? She said, fearful of angering him. A pirate with a bounty over 200 million wouldn't have any qualms with outright killing her and being done with it. Doflamingo, Soren roared, standing up out of his chair and throwing his glass against the nearest wall. You said you saw him. Where did the son of a bitch go? Murat was shaking until Yosaku stepped in front of her, placing himself between her and Soren. Calm down, Soren, you're scaring her. She's going to tell you. Murat took this moment to answer him to get the oppressive feeling of death off of herself. He said that Bellamy had an alliance with him. That must have been why we had that other insignia on our mast. He might be on our ship in the docks. It's going to have a crossed-out smiley on the mainsail. Soren looked at her coldly and nodded before walking towards the door where a group of pirates blocked his path while smirking. Move. He said simply, a threatening undertone in his voice. You think you can come into our bar and start making a ruckus? Who do you think you are? The leader of the group said, placing a hand on Soren's shoulder until a hissing sound rang out and the man pulled his hand away. The skin on the surface of his hand burned away. Gah. What? Soren didn't say a word or even blink. He simply spit right into the man's eye, sending him to the ground yelling and rubbing at where he screamed his eyes were burning, his friends frantically trying to help him. Murat watched him leave and let a breath go that she hadn't been aware she had been holding. That was terrifying. Yosaku nodded. Yeah, Naruto Aniki is scarier when he wants to be. He ignored Murat's look of astonishment at hearing that fact, but what the hell is his problem with Doflamingo? Murat shook her head. How does he even know him? He's one of the Shichibukai. Yosaku sighed. I need to go find Naruto Aniki. He looked at her apologetically. Sorry about getting you involved in all of this, but if you want to get paid we need to find Naruto Aniki and we need to get this all figured out. Hopefully we don't end up tearing the town apart this time. Murat remained silent as she wordlessly followed Yosaku out, stepping over the guy on the ground freaking out about being hit with Soren's acid. XXX. Crossed out smiley, crossed out smiley, crossed out smiley. Soren stopped searching when he saw a ship outlined in pink with a crossed-out smiley figurehead and a smiley as the main sail with a second insignia of lips and a tongue sticking out above it. Gotcha, Doflamingo. Time to die, he shouted as he jumped aboard the ship to find it seemingly deserted. Come out, damn it. Come out so I can kill you. I was having such a nice rest, a male voice called from inside of the ship as their footsteps sounded out. The flamboyant figure finally emerged from the shadows of the ship to look down at Soren with a grin. Well, little Baldy. I could never forget a weird-looking kid like you. How's life? Ebi no jackin', rot hose. Soren shouted before a steady blast of acid flew from his arms at Doflamingo, who jumped high into the air and stood up on the sail of the ship looking down at Soren. Doflamingo let out an amused laugh at Soren. "And you got the powers of a devil fruit, all for little old me. I'm so touched. I would be rather put out at you tearing this ship up, but this ship isn't mine, it belongs to some former associate of mine, so do with it what you like." Don Quixote Doflamingo, "This ship will be your grave," Soren shouted at him, acidic mist flying from his body, showing his anger at the man above him. Doflamingo's ever-present grin was in place as he laughed down at him again. "Come on now. What did I ever do to you, you know, besides the torturing you and making you mark yourself thing?" "Why," Soren hissed lowly. Doflamingo's grin widened. "I already told you that back when you were a little boy. I did it because I could. Because you were weak and I was strong. The way the world works, it's a viciously beautiful modus operandi." "I know that," Soren snapped back impatiently. "I meant, why did you even bother getting the Marines off of me in the first place? You could have just let them continue. You didn't have to kill them and then turn to me." "Fufufufufu." Doflamingo laughed uproariously. "I already told you. How many times do I have to keep saying it? I did it because I could. I killed them because I could, because they were weak enough to get their kicks beating on a street kid, and then I wanted to see what they saw in it, so I did what I did to you. I have to say, it wasn't as appealing as they made it look. You were so easy to manipulate into cutting yourself, it wasn't even worth it." He stopped talking and took a good look at him. "Nice touch covering the scars with those tattoos. You would think you meant to have those if one didn't know any better," he said before laughing again. Soren seethed in anger as his thoughts were haunted with Doflamingo's laughter, both in his mind from the past, and out loud in real time. "Die. Ibi no Danmaku, rot barrage." Soren let loose an uncountable number of small acidic bullets from his mouth at Doflamingo. The pink feathered coat-wearing man laughed loudly as he dodged every shot and let the bullets eat through the sail as he kept away from Soren's shots. "That's the spirit. I knew you would end up being fun if I let you live to hate me." Soren stopped his barrage to ration what he had left of his fluids. "I can't waste everything on an attack that isn't hitting him." He fired a single burst of acid from his mouth at Doflamingo, who simply turned his head and let it pass by him, allowing Soren to leap high into the air and draw his palm back. Kishotora, Suaraku Yama, rising tiger, falling mountain. Soren dropped from the sky at his enemy with a crushing palm strike that was dodged, sending him right through the deck of the ship, leaving a massive hole. Doflamingo looked inside of the hole with a grin on his face. "Did you go all the way through and land in the ocean? Are you dead yet?" he asked brightly. Ibi no Kenkatsuzen, rot geyser." Soren's reply was an eruption of acid from the hole that he had created. Doflamingo jumped back out of the way, avoiding the deadly fluid. Another eruption occurred from where his feet landed after that dodge, forcing him to move aside again. Doflamingo moved again, only this time from the acid that had just come up from the ground. Soren emerged with his hand drawn back in a knife hand form. Ibi no deba, rot knife. He thrusted his hand out at Doflamingo, counting down the distance before his hand would pierce the man's chest until his hand was stopped cold right before it reached him. Soren's eyes raised in horror as they met Doflamingo's glasses-shrouded eyes, his face twisted in a wide grin. "Well, what do you know? It looks like I can still control you, kid. Let's see how much." Soren's hand slowly moved away from Doflamingo's chest, no matter how hard he tried to will himself to go back and finish the man off. "No. I'm so close. I was right there." His hand moved back towards his own chest and jabbed against it like he had intended to do to Doflamingo. The Shichibukai frowned when he didn't see Soren's hand pierce his own chest. "Huh, so you can't work your powers on yourself, I see. Oh well, I can still kill you." Soren grit his teeth before letting his cheeks swell. Ibi no Kuzui, rot flood. He shot out a torrent of acid that knocked Doflamingo backwards and coated him in acid as he lifted his arms to cover his face. The force of the attack pressed Doflamingo back against the mast, where the acid that wasn't hitting him began eating away at the mast, knocking it over and sending it crashing into the water. "And that's that, you cocky son of a bitch. Now you're going to be a puddle," he said as he saw bits dripping off of his drenched target. Eventually it all died down to reveal that the only thing that had happened was that Doflamingo was forced to shed his pink, thickly feathered coat lest his body wind up on the receiving end of the business portion of Soren's acid. Doflamingo lowered his arms from his face to reveal his grin had dropped. I like that coat. XXX. Naruto Aniki. Naruto was finally sprung from Nojiko's inherent need to window shop by Yosaku. Thank Kami, Yosaku. Nojiko glared at him, sending a chill down his back. I mean, ahem, what could be so important that you'd tear me away from this thing I'm doing with Noji-chan that I enjoy so much and would never complain about out loud? Naruto looked over his shoulder at Nojiko with a, please buy that, look. He was satisfied for the moment when she looked away with a huff. He'd have to fix that later. Soren, Yosaku said. He flipped out and went after Donkiho Doflamingo. I don't know why. Donkiho Dofwafutwat? Naruto asked vapidly. This is Uzumaki Naruto. Murat asked from behind Yosaku. He doesn't look scary at all. How could this guy have kidnapped anyone or killed any kinds of marines? Naruto looked at her inquisitively. Yosaku, who is this and why is she here? And more importantly, what are you doing with her? Oi, I take offense to that. Yosaku said loudly, but she's just here to get paid for giving Soren a small checkup. She's a doctor. Naruto stared at her for a few moments. We'll talk more after we handle this. You're getting paid no matter what for helping out, but right now there's something more important. Where is Soren? Murat spoke up. I told him to check for the docs. Are you sure he's going to fight this person? Who would be insane enough to fight one of the Shichibukai? Naruto stopped in his tracks. Damn it, this is the guy that Soren wanted to fight. If he freaked out and went after him, it's definitely him. He motioned for Nojiko to climb onto his back. We need to go get Soren and hope he didn't destroy too much stuff. We need to stay here until the log pose resets. He looked at Yosaku. Get the girl here to the ship. You guys wait there until we get back. Murat let out a small scream of surprise when Naruto and Nojiko disappeared in a burst of wind and leaves. What? What kind of devil fruit power is that? He's so much faster than Bellamy. Yosaku shook his head. That's not a power of any fruit. Naruto Aniki apparently learned how to do all of that. Hard to believe, but he can swim and everything, so he has to be telling the truth about it. He's really secretive about a lot of stuff, but he's a hell of a captain. Come on, let's go. Murat shook her head and followed him. You're all so weird. She said, but her thoughts were different, but they're more interesting, and definitely way stronger than Bellamy's crew. One of them is picking fights with the Shichibukai and he isn't even the captain. XXX. With Soren's body sailed through the air and crashed harshly on the land. He looked up at the boat he had been thrown from. Cuts freely opened all over his face. Soren coughed up blood, his internal injuries re-aggravated from the damage he had been taking. He shakily stood up, his leg still not properly healed from his fight with the cyborg, glaring at the ship. 11 years, goddamn you. I'm not losing after training and hunting you for 11 years. You fucking sellout. Your world government won't protect you from me. Soren lifted his hands overhead and began drawing a massive amount of acid from his body in the form of a huge orb. He began breathing heavily at the lack of bodily liquids doing such a thing caused, die. Ebi Shibatsu, rot death. Soren threw his hands forward, moving the sphere of acid that began taking the shape of a giant hissing skull that opened its mouth and engulfed the ship, hitting it flush. The acid covered every inch of the ship, bringing it down in an oozing mess into the bay water. Soren collapsed on his hands and knees, staring out at the water and where the sunken ship Doflamingo had been unused to sit. Incoming. Soren had no time to respond before he found himself driven into the ground by Doflamingo, who had his heels buried into Soren's back, forcing the young man to scream out in pain. Ooh, that looks painful. Do you think that cracked a few vertebrae? Soren spoke weakly with Doflamingo still on his back. How did you get off the ship? I never saw you move, I never saw anything. Doflamingo kneeled down on Soren's back. Oh, that. I jumped. Soren's eyes widened. You jumped. How high did you jump? I can't jump that high, he said before he felt Doflamingo's hand on the top of his head, having lost his bandana during the fight. Oh, little bald kid, he said scathingly, if you're comparing yourself to me, and I'm quite sure that you were at this point, you should know something. I've been doing this since before you were even a twinkle in the eyes of the parents that didn't want you. Soren tried to rise and fight at that comment, but as he could only try to move before pain shot through his body from his back, keeping him down. You were a fun little loose end, I have to admit, but if this is as good as you're going to get before challenging me, I might as well put you out of my misery now. His grip tightened on Soren's head to an excruciatingly painful extent, getting him to scream out in pain once more. In a swirl of wind and leaves, Naruto appeared behind Soren and Doflamingo and aimed a kick at the Shichibukai's head that forced him to relinquish his position in Soren's head lest he lose his own. Nojiko hopped off of Naruto's back and kneeled down by Soren with her rifle trained on Doflamingo. "Noji-chan, put your gun up," Naruto said, confusing her greatly. "You aren't here to fight this guy. He beat Soren. Even if he was hurt, beating Soren is a big deal." Nojiko reluctantly placed her gun back into its holding place on her back. Naruto's attention turned to Doflamingo, who was standing back up staring at Naruto with his hands in his pockets and a grin on his face. "So you're the guy that Soren wants to murder?" Doflamingo bowed extravagantly. "Don Quixote Doflamingo, at your service, Uzumaki Naruto." He lifted his head up to look at Naruto. "Yes, I know who you are. The work you ended up doing on those pacifista cyborgs that were sent after you definitely got the Marines' attention. I saw the footage one of them captured. Very impressive." Naruto's lips quirked in amusement. "All I did was break a few toys. I can do things way cooler than that, trust me." "That's what Sengoku thought too," Doflamingo said. "He more or less told all of the Shichibukai that showed up to his little meeting to offer you a seat as one of us if we came across you on the seas. Someone has to take Crocodile's place after all." Naruto let out a chuckle. "I don't fight for anyone but those precious to me. If you see this Sengoku again, tell him there's nothing he can say or do that will make me his lapdog. I'd rather be his outlaw. It's more fun that way." Doflamingo laughed at that. "You know, that's the exact reason I joined the Shichibukai myself, because I thought it would be more interesting than just destroying the Marines sent after me. I guess that's how we differ, Uzumaki Naruto." He then raised an eyebrow. "Aren't you going to attack me? I expected a fight out of you." Naruto shook his head and formed a trio of Cage Bunshin, putting Doflamingo on guard until they went over to Soren, one turning into a stretcher and the others placing him onto it before taking him away alongside Nojiko. The original Naruto stared Doflamingo down. "I'm not going to fight you myself because it's not my place. I'll let Soren finish you himself, because who am I to take a friend's dream away from him?" "Dreams," Doflamingo said in hilarity. "A man like myself doesn't have any need for immaterial goals like the one that your foolish bald friend has towards killing me. He needs a goal you can grasp onto. A material goal that can be obtained. The world is changing and dreams are dead." Naruto shook his head pitifully, spoken like a man that never achieved his own. Doflamingo's smile grew. "And you, Uzumaki, are you saying you achieved your own clearly lofty goals in life?" Naruto shook his head. "No, I haven't." A smile formed on Naruto's face. "But I believe I can achieve it, because it's not just my goal, it's the goal of my sensei, my father, my fellow disciple. It's the goal of so many people." He closed his eyes and laughed. "And I have all the time in the world." Naruto turned around and started walking away with his hands in his pockets. "All the time in the world." Doflamingo let out another laugh. "Fufufufu. I like you, Uzumaki. I disagree with you vehemently, but still, I like you, kid." He ignored Naruto's amused snort after he called him kid. "That spot isn't going to stay open for long. I may have been asked to offer you the spot amongst our ranks, but the next time we meet it will probably be filled, and we'll be enemies. There's no reason to do it, especially right now." Naruto insisted. "I'm a free man, I have my own ship and crew, I can go anywhere I want to in the entire world, and I don't need the protection of your world government for me or my people, so no, I'd rather not place a yoke around my neck to be dragged around by a bunch of nameless, faceless leaders." Doflamingo nodded. "I respect that." Naruto waved over his shoulder, not turning to look at Doflamingo. "I don't really care. Till the next time, later." Naruto then disappeared in a yellow flash. Doflamingo stared at where Naruto had once been before laughing slowly. The laughter grew until he was laughing uproariously. "That's very interesting. You're an interesting guy, Uzumaki Naruto. Ah, things are going to be getting fun again. I can just feel it," he said to himself before walking away. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.